From the College by the Lake, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Local, regional, national, and international guests discussing the issues and topics affecting the way you live are on Forum, the North Idaho College Public Forum, with your host and moderator, political scientist, Tony Stewart.
It is my special privilege to welcome you to the 998th program of the North Idaho College Public Forum. I mention the number because I would like to invite all of those people in our viewing audience that's ever been on this program as a guest or a panel member or a member of the crew to join us when we're going to celebrate the 1,000th show. It's taken us 21 years to get to this point, doing a weekly program and some reruns, and I would like to invite you to a party we're going to have on Friday, April the 16th. It will be at 7 p.m. in the evening at North Idaho College, and it will be in the Boswell Hall Auditorium. And even if you haven't been on the program, we'd like for you to come and help us celebrate and to share your thoughts and ideas as a viewer of this program. You are warmly welcome to that celebration. Today we're very pleased to introduce a topic that's important to many of you and certainly to us at North Idaho College, and that is the question of vocational technical education. And we're very fortunate to have a real expert to discuss this issue with us. It is Dr. Barbara Bennett, who is the new Associate Dean of Instruction in VOTech Education at Idaho College. She came to us from Spokane, where she worked for 20 years in this field. She holds a doctorate from Florida State University in higher education leadership. Her baccalaureate degree is from Whitworth College, and she also has experience as a student when she was at Mount Hood Community College years ago. Dr. Bennett, welcome to our program, and we also are happy that you have joined the administration at North Idaho College.
I'm happy to be here. It's a privilege.
As always, I'm pleased to have our two regular panelists. First of all is Janelle Burke, who is an attorney in the state of Idaho, and next to her is Steve Sheen, who is the Dean of College Relations and Development at North Idaho College, and I shall ask Janelle to commence the questioning.
Well, in order to acquaint our viewers with the show today, I would like to ask you a two-pronged question. First of all, what kinds of classes are being offered in vocational technical education these days? And secondly, what kinds of students are participating in those classes?
Well, firstly, the kinds of classes being offered, I think we can break down into categories, perhaps is a better way to think in terms of them. Business and office technology kinds of classes and programs, allied health kinds of programs, mechanical kinds of programs, high-tech or the more technical kinds of programs, and by that I would refer to the things like drafting and electronics and machine technology. Some of our service industry kinds of things, law enforcement, culinary arts, hospitality kinds of programs, and then as well as our more traditional, in our region, maintenance mechanic or millwright, some things in HVAC, which would be heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. So we have a wide range of programs. Students who come, students range from the high school graduate coming directly to us from one of our high schools in the five-county region that we serve, as well as the Silver Valley miner who has lost a job and is retraining. And we have two programs right now that we're running that entirely are made up of Silver Valley miners. Heating, ventilating program, and they're coming in at 2:30 when our day class is through, and they're coming in and working till 9:30 at night. And then we have a second carpentry class made up of Silver Valley miners. So wide range of students.
Now, can I ask also just a sort of follow-up question, and that is, can you tell me what kind of a degree do you offer? And how do you distinguish that from some of the private schools that may offer vocational education and who might offer a different kind of degree? How can people know what they're getting when they are looking at a graduate of a vocational technical school?
I would refer people to the way the college or institution is accredited. In the case of North Idaho College, we are accredited by Northwest Accrediting Association, which is the accrediting body for this region in the country, one of COPA out of the Washington, D.C. national scene for accrediting post-secondary education institutions. That's the first criteria, and having that accreditation then means that there are standards that the college maintains, and we will be knowing that and addressing that as they come back to visit North Idaho College this spring. But in the area of VOTech education, one of the strengths is short-term or intense training, that a student can get trained in an environment and in a program and leave in 9 months, 10 months less than a year, have a certificate of completion, and move out into industry. The second arena is a more intense and general program with the applied science, Associate of Applied Science degree that indicates the student has taken some general education courses, has taken broader than the skill area in which they're being trained, so that there's a broad range of thinking, reasoning, communication skills that are included within the program.
Steve Sheen.
Barbara, I'd like to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about some of the misconceptions that people may have about vocational education. And I'm thinking about myths that I think are still out there to some extent, that vocational education is for other people's kids, that vocational students don't need the same kinds of skills and abilities that academic transfer students do.
That's an exciting question to respond to, Steve, because I think in no time since the mid-30s, when we were coming out of the Great Depression, has vocational education had the focus in our country that it has today. The SCANS report, which was the Secretary's Commission for Necessary Skills, the development of the President's Commission for the year 2000 report, the Messinger report on high skills, low wages, America's Choice. All of these reports are bringing to focus the need for a broadly trained vocational education programming. We're looking at more intense communication areas, more intense math and rigor in math and communications backgrounds, looking at a broader range of applications in the delivery of voc-ed, and for us that's a challenge. It's a challenge because vocational educators traditionally have been hands-on, skill-oriented, and to combine and add to their already very crammed curriculum some broader range courses is putting a challenge on all of us, and we're facing that challenge. I think one of the things out of the Messinger report was that 70% of the workers of the next decade, in the next decade, would need less than a baccalaureate degree, but they would need more than a high school degree. It's that technical degree, that 2-year Associate of Applied Science degree, that we see the focus really intensely opening the door for vocational education arenas to meet the demand of America's industry. I think from the standpoint of how we're working in our communities, our linkages with business and industry, all of that is addressing how we work to support the need of the American workforce. There's a real focus on the community college and the delivery of post-secondary education in America today, an exciting opportunity for those in vocational education to meet the challenge, and it is a challenge for us.
So there are more and more jobs out there in the American workplace today that require some kind of specialized technical training. What about wages?
The idea of wages and the dilemma for us is that so many of these jobs will be in the service industry, which traditionally have not had high wages. What we are seeing, however, is the worker going out with the Associate of Applied Science degree, having the technical skill as well as the general ed background, being able to move up, to be embedded in lifelong learning skills, to come back and take the continuing ed short-term training program that's going to enhance their skills and move them into a direction that they would not otherwise be. Entry-level skills, I think, and entry-level wages, we're not seeing tremendous increase in it, but it's upward mobility once the employee is in the firm, their ability to work in a team, their ability to be part of frontline management, the breakdown of the Taylor method of a workforce, where we had a hierarchical workforce, the idea of a flat or horizontal workforce where decisions are made at the front lines, where the work requires that we prepare that employee, that future employee, with thinking skills and reasoning skills.
You've already alluded to what I want to ask you today, Barbara, but the whole world is changing, and I have just theorized without any documentation that probably life changes faster in a decade than it used to in 100 years. So one could look at life as an 800-year process and change. But this is both in academic and vocational technical programs. I wish you'd take some time with our viewers to share some information that you have from studies that have been done about how the changing society is tremendous in this country. I'm alluding to such things as the change in the family and its structure and the diversity within our society, and how that all is going to fit in and how we have to address our students in the future.
One of the most recent reports done on the changing higher education scene was done by Harold Hodgkins, and it really is about 5 years old now, but he shocked the higher ed community with the data that he was, and research that he had done regarding the student coming to college in the 1990s, and indeed we're seeing that, and that's the older student, and we talked briefly about the range of students that we have, and more we're seeing that, but also the single parent student. Some of the kinds of statistics that he's presenting to us today indicate that more than 61% of our students coming to college will have been in a single family home at some time in their life, so that no longer is the traditional family the two-parent, two-children family, but it's a single-parent family. And what that means to those of us in education in providing an environment for our students to be successful and to be able to come to school with children, with perhaps a parent alone raising a family, and that takes me back to my own entry into the college environment, because I was a single mom and I started college in my mid-30s, recognizing then that the demands on you for both knowing you needed to have an education as well as taking care of your family. What does that mean in the delivery of our education? We must provide for childcare. We must provide for opportunities for our students to have a place to take emergency calls, to be accessible by phone if they need to. How is that going to change how we deliver different hours, changing the times we deliver? These are all kinds of things I think we're going to have to face. The other interesting aspect that I think Hodgkins brought in is the fact of the minority student in the areas of the country where we traditionally think of being the white homogeneous American society that we are not. We're rapidly becoming a society of where the minority is no longer the minority, it's the majority. And what are we going to call the 18 to 22-year-old white male who is all of a sudden by the year 2000 in many of our states will be the minority? What are we going to call them? Was one of Hodgkinson's questions, and that in itself, just thinking in terms of it, I think is challenging to us. And I recognize that in North Idaho we don't have that wide range, nor in Spokane do we have that wide range of minority impact. But it's as we have more people moving into our community from the external areas outside of our natural environment that we in the Northwest appreciate, we're going to see changes. It's going to bring with it cultural changes for us, and how we adapt to that I think is critical, again, in working and training for the workforce. How do we help our students understand the wide divergence of cultures that they're going to be expected to work with?
So I hear you saying that not only do we, in our curricula and our teaching method and so forth, that we need to adjust to the cultural differences, but then the high tech itself, in your field in particular,
rapidly.
So there's going to be more than one component that's involved in tremendous change in the teaching process.
The learning to learn, the idea of learning to learn, the essence of learning is learning to learn and wanting to continue to learn because of the rapid change in technology. I think we spoke earlier about not just training for a skill that a person will go out and use for the rest of their life, and that's what we used to think in terms of Voc Tech Ed. Today we have to think in terms of how do we build the base for that employee to grow, to change with the industry that they have chosen as a career field, and to be able to adapt and to transfer the knowledge base, and not to just rotely work a line or rotely do a particular task, but to be able to not integrate with other people, to integrate with the community that they're serving. Big challenges for us in adapting this education. Change, I think of Hodgkinson and saying change has been with us, And we've always talked about change, but what's impacting us today is that change is at the core. Change is no longer on the periphery, on the extremes. That the very essence of what we're doing here at North Idaho College in Voc Ed is changing. That's the very core of what these people have all been about. And that's a real challenge for us.
Thank you. Janelle Burke.
Along that same line, it seems that there's a lot of change going on. So will people need to be in a process of lifelong learning?
Absolutely. That's been one of my themes with the faculty since I came, Janelle. I think we do our students a disservice if we do not prepare them for the most upward mobility that they're capable of achieving. By that I mean if we are channeling them into classes and programs that do not allow and lend themselves to transferability, a base to build on, then we have done them a disservice. But with that is the challenge of taking those students who might not ever reach that level and provide for them an environment where they can grow to their highest level and be a productive member of society. There are not a lot of programs we can do that with, but in vocational technical arena there are some that have a wide range of entry level so that a student can start at a low entry level place and take their place in society where they might not ever have been able to do that had they not had some post-secondary education where a classmate right along with them might move out and do a baccalaureate degree in the same field. And that's the kind of base that we need to be building for our students and challenging them with the idea of lifelong learning.
Now, what about the person who finds themselves in one field and suddenly that field is either disappearing or perhaps a job isn't there for them in a particular location? What kind of retraining then? Would you consider that lifelong education as well?
Well, if they have had some good basic background, then they're going to be able to take some of that basic background and build on it. That's the kind of thing that we're talking about in the general ed elements that we're attempting to bring into Voc Ed, is to allow a student to have and to encourage them to have that base so that as they change or as industry changes, that they will have a base to build on, not just a rote skill.
What about those of us who may not be wishing to prepare for a new field of employment, but we just have an interest in an area and we'd like to learn about it, or we'd like to keep updated on what's going on in the world around us?
Well, I just think our short-term training here at North Idaho College has accolades to Robert Ketchen and the crew there that are putting together for industry, for private citizens, exactly that kind of a class, something to upgrade, to build in a particular area. We do work with them very closely when, for example, painting techniques in the auto body come out, or new paint manufacturers come into the area and present into for our people in our community working to just come in and utilize a new painting technology, and we'll use our program to spend three nights a week perhaps just focusing on that area. Another area that we do a great deal of skill building in and orientation in is in the CAD area, computer area, and computer programming in just keyboard knowledge of the keyboard and skill in running a computer, but as well as that, the changing programming in CAD and CAM operations for members of our community. So there's continual upgrade with those kinds of things.
What about people who are retired? Is it too old to go to school?
Absolutely not. If I can start school when I did, I think I just am challenged by people who want to come back and refocus and redirect some of their life in another area. We've chatted just recently with several of our students from the Silver Valley, and it's exciting to see how they're taking hold of the challenge that they were faced with. Tremendous change for those people who have lived in that community for many years and are facing now with not only a change in their career, but a change in their home, a change in their environment and where they reside, and some of the enthusiasm that some of those people are beginning to catch that glimmer and see that there's an exciting world out there and they can adapt to it.
Steve Sheen.
Barbara, we've been talking mostly about vocational education in a college setting, about the need for education beyond those college years, even into retirement. But what about a new trend that I've heard a little bit about, which involves high school students. Could you tell us something about that?
Okay, Steve is talking about tech prep, am I right? And tech prep is another of the avenues addressed particularly by the federal government, but with tremendous input from industry in saying that we need to have a better trained employee. And I think one of the biggest words we're going to see in the next decade is partnerships, and tech prep is that. It's just a partnership with the community college and the post-secondary institutions, partnering with the high schools, with our K through 12 system, and helping students at a very early age determine that high school, if you're not college bound, is more than just general ed subjects and just making it through, but there's a focus for them. Focus at the sophomore level to begin looking at the kinds of applied general ed, applied math, applied biology. Good example of tech prep would be in a high school where we would have some applied biology, some applied math, some applied chemistry, and an orientation to the field to the medical field, to the allied health professions. By the time the high school student was through their senior year, they would have taken some of the kinds of courses that would be required in the allied health arena, in an LPN program, in a mental health technician program, so that they come to the community college ready to move into those programs, not needing to have remediation, but moving directly from high school in a continuous scene into the community college or post-secondary setting. A tremendous amount of focus from the federal level and funding for partnerships of that kind. Again, North Idaho and Idaho State is to be commended for their absolute awareness in this, and the way they've taken the model and worked on it within the 6 regions that the state is divided up in. There are very few places in the country that have a jump on how North Idaho is working in this arena. We did bring in from South Carolina, and when I see Riley as the new Secretary of Education, I'm thinking that South Carolina schools have been a model in the tech prep model. Tremendous decrease in the numbers of their students who were dropping out of high school, particularly because of the focus on tech prep and because of their focus to work business and industry into the tech prep model and encourage business to not hire high school dropouts. They were in an environment where there was a lot of manufacturing. They could get on into a manufacturing scene without high school, buy their new cars, and the folks there in the tech prep arena said, if we're going to work with tech prep, it's not going to work unless industry comes in and says, we will not hire a high school dropout. And their dropout rate went from 27, 28% down to 3% in a matter of 6 to 8 years, and what they've been doing in the tech prep. Rich Gartner out of our office is working very closely with the high schools and the tech prep arena. We see good movement with what's happening with high school counselors and high school faculty, and looking at how we prepare that student at that level for moving in to the community college or post-secondary scene.
I had the advantage of getting to talk with you prior to the show the other day, and I was so impressed with your knowledge and information on what's happening in the field, and it certainly has shown through on this program. But one of the things that you talked to me about, Dr. Bennett, that was very impressive, and that has to do with trying to, from our own perspective, analyze what is in vocational technical education at the community college level, what is the product, and who are our clients. And I thought that was so well put that I wish you would share that with our viewers.
Well, we've often seen the student as the product, and there's a much focus on the student and student success. And in the arena of VOTEC, we've always been accountable, more so than any other element in post-secondary education, because the very essence of our programs depend on our placement. And so faculty are very much concerned, A, how many students they have in their program, and B, how we place them. And rightly so, that's what we've all been about. But the focus has been on the student, and more VocEd is putting the focus on the product being the program content, the program delivery, the product that we market to both the client, the student as a client, and our employer as a client. And again, we have that challenge of meeting both needs, because we have a student as a client who has certain expectations in a program, and we also have the employer as a client who has certain expectations in the employee. And to help us with that, we have advisory committees for each one of our programs made up of business and industry representatives. And we're in the process now within our faculty ranks and strengthening those advisory committees in providing a process for rotation so that there's new opportunities for new business people to be involved, and listening to what they have to say to us, and instead of always being quick to tell them what we're doing. And that's a new role for us, to listen to what it is that business and industry is saying and what we need to change in the delivery of our product and the delivery of that program.
When you were talking with me about that, I was just somewhat overwhelmed what lies ahead, because you have very clearly illustrated today the changes in society, the changes in technology, and the changes in the need of industry. How does one cope with all this with one's administrative staff and one's faculty? It seems that it is so rapid in its change, and it involves so many components that you have to have some kind of priority list on how you go about this, do you not?
We do, and I guess the priority list is what fire is there today, but and I can laughingly say that, but the challenge is to help our vocational faculty not be threatened by the rapid change, to recognize that at North Idaho College the faculty are excellent, have done an excellent job in delivering vocational education, and not because of what they have or have not done, but because of the societal changes and the changing technology, are we needing to address some of these things, and working with them on a one-on-one, lots of one-on-one with faculty, encouraging them to listen to employers, encouraging them to listen to their advisory committee teams, and to adapt where we can. One of the major things that we addressed this year was integrating general ed into our vocational programs. The Northwest Accrediting Association is mandating that we not have embedded, in other words, that we not just teach math as part of working with color or working with paint and auto body, for example, but that we have discrete math delivery and instruction, discrete math in all of our areas. That's a real challenge to faculty who have always had their program intact, who are now saying somebody else is going to come in, and how do I let go? How do I give up a little piece of me and know that the students are going to be better off because of it? It is a challenge.
On that note, we have to bring our program to conclusion, and Dr. Barbara Bennett, who is the Associate Dean of Instruction in the field of vocational technical education, has been our guest. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll have you back at some future time, and I want to thank the panel for their outstanding questions. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you've enjoyed our program. Once again, for you who joined us in progress, I'd like to invite you to be with us for our 1000th TV show party, which will be at North Idaho College in the Boswell Hall Auditorium on Friday, April 16th at 7 p.m. We want to celebrate and recognize all of those people who've been on this program over 20 years now by doing one a week. It's taken a long time to get to 1,000. We hope you'll be with us. And I'd invite you to be with us again next week at this same time, and we'll discuss an important issue. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
The North Idaho College Public Forum was videotaped live from the studios of Telemedia Services on the campus of North Idaho College for viewing at this more appropriate time. We invite you to join us again next week for another all-new edition of the North Idaho College Public Forum on this public television station.